Hey guys, Tactics 40K coming at you again with another video for Harlequins. This video I'm going to talk about specifically the Death Jester. The Death Jester is a pretty decent elite choice. He's not my favorite. He's probably my favorite model, but we'll get into how to use him and what he's good at doing. And some of the tactics you can use him, you can apply with him on the battlefield. So we're going to talk about how he can be useful. He is 60 points, so he's pretty cheap. He's your basic stat line, with the exception is he's ballistic skill 5. I think he's only weapon skill 5. I could be wrong. Sorry again. I don't have the book with me, but it's not really that important. It doesn't really change him that much if I'm off by a couple numbers. He's pretty good in combat. He's got like 3 attacks with like initiative 7. He's leadership 10, I believe. And he has all the other Harlequin special rules such as Furious Charge, Flip Belt. So he's got a 5 up and vulnerable save. He's got 2 wounds. And yeah, he has a Shrieker Cannon. Now the Shrieker Cannon is his primary weapon. It's got 2 different firing modes. It's got essentially a shuriken cannon firing mode, which I believe has rending, so ballistic skill 5 rending cannon, which is pretty good, which is essentially the same thing, or it's blade storm, sorry, not rending. So it's AP2 when you roll a 6, so it's pseudo rending essentially. Typically he's going to be using that mode the most in my opinion, but he does have the other fire mode, which allows him to fire just one single shot. It's a poison 2+, and if it kills somebody, it does a large strength 5 AP4 ignore cover blast. So good high risk, high reward kind of mode, because I mean, if you kill something, it doesn't have blade storm, so he's still only gonna, unless he's only got a 5 up armor save, it's only AP5 the gun, I think, or AP6. Odds are he might pass his armor save and it does nothing. And you might even fail to hit or fail to wound, and he still may have a decent cover save even if he doesn't have a good armor save. So typically, I normally only fire it the other way. One shot to me is just so much risk. I mean, obviously, there's a big reward if it does work. You could kill, a pile of guys, but that's not really what's important about him. What's important about him is his special rule. His special rule is death is not enough. And if death is not enough, what it does is a -2 leadership morale test for anyone who suffers an unsaved wound against his weapons and shooting. A -2 morale test, and on top of that, you actually get to choose the direction he will fall back in for the first turn, and then after that, he'll fall back as normal. But this means you can use this to either bring the enemy closer to you if he's too far away from his table edge and he won't make it off the table. And hence killing the entire unit, which is obviously the better choice. If you can do that, I would say do that. To kill the whole unit in one, by killing just one model is kind of a big slap in the face to anybody who plays this game. I mean, on top of that, you could also have him run towards the side table edge instead of the back table edge if they're hanging out on the flank, which is another good thing. Like, they could be on your side of the table, or there could be a unit outflankers who just came in that are sitting like 6 inches away from the table edge. If you get him to shoot one of them and then he dies and they run off the table edge, like they would go off the side table edge and be destroyed, just like if they were off the table, the player's edge, because it doesn't state which edge it has to be. It says all it has to goes off the table edge, the unit is destroyed. So pretty good utility there, but in order for that to work, you do have to kill something. You can't just hit them, you can't just wound them, you actually have to cause an unsaved wound. So therefore, you actually need to cause some damage for that morale test to even be taken. The weapon is an assault weapon, even though it's a 24-inch range, so I mean, it's not too hard to get him in position to shoot most turns, considering he has a flip belt. Excuse me. Because he has a flip belt, he's going to be ignoring the terrain, so he's not going to be in trouble taking terrain tests all game. Now, he can't run and shoot. He's not Eldar. He can't battle focus, run, shoot, and whatever. So unfortunately, it's hard to kind of put him with a unit of Harlequins on foot, because Harlequins on foot are going to pretty much be running every turn. There's no reason why the Harlequins shouldn't be running, besides if you have a Shrieker Cannon kind of in the unit, slowing it down. And because of this, it kind of makes it a little difficult to field properly. Now, yes, granted, you could put him with the big unit and then shoot at the closest unit to them and then bring them closer instead of running. And then hopefully make the charge. But that's basically relying on the fact that you're going to actually kill something with the Shrieker Cannon, and they're actually going to fall back a good enough distance for you to make the charge, which is not likely. It's a decent tactic. I'm not hitting on anyone who's thinking about doing that as a tactic, but don't expect that to happen very often. Even at a Master Morale leadership test, they could still pass. Like, it's not like, oh, I killed something, yes, we did it. No, it's still like a leadership 8 check for something. Like, Necrons are still leadership 8 after -2. Space Marines, if they have a sergeant, they're still leadership 7. Like, they still have a 50-50 chance to pass that leadership test. If there's a character with them and making them leadership 10, then again, you're leadership 8. It's pretty easy to pass a leadership 8 leadership test. I've seen people pass them all game. So it's not an easy task sometimes to get that to work. What I do with them is typically I put them by themselves. I'll put them in a building that can shoot different targets. And the reason for this is because they can shoot different targets and be quite useful that way. Another way I've used them is I've put maybe 1 or 2 of them into a Starweaver. And that's a pretty good tactic too, mainly because the Shrieker Cannon is the same kind of profile as a Shuriken Cannon, and the Starweavers already have 2 Shuriken Cannons, so essentially you're just basically getting more firepower from that gun, that Starweaver. And then if anything dies from the Shrieker Cannons, then they can run away or whatnot, what have you. And I have in the past put 2 Death Jesters into a Starweaver and have them work out pretty well for me. They have done some nice things and caused quite a bit of damage. I've seen them, with 2 of them in a unit, it's pretty typical that you're going to kill something with that many Strength 6 Blade Storming with skill 5 shots, because you're hitting with almost all of them. Most of the time all of them hit, and most of the time all of them wound. Someone passing 6 armor saves, even if it's a Space Marine, sometimes you don't even get one because maybe one of them was Blade Stormed. Typically, something dies and they have to run away, and that's really useful. Typically, though, when you do something like this, it's a lot of points to do that. Each Death Jester is 60 points. It's 120 points inside that Starweaver. That's more points than the Starweaver. It's almost as many points as a whole 5-man unit of Harlequins. It actually is more than that. So it is nice though, because it is probably the best way to get the most amount of firepower, a sheer number of dice out of a single unit. If you think about it, like realistically, it's 6 dice. It's 12 dice that are strength 6 coming out of that thing, and that's pretty scary from one Starweaver. And the Starweaver could still jink, and it does have Mirage launchers, so it's fairly survivable too. How I've been doing it, how I like to do it more often than not, though, with the Death Jester is put it with the Shadow Seer. I've talked about this with the Shadow Seer before. Put it with a Shadow Seer, a level 1 Shadow Seer with the Primaris, and put them in a building and just have them shoot infantry every turn and put up the Primaris power so they can't be fired upon by most things from far away. And it's a thorn in your opponent's side to have these Shrieker Cannons shooting into their infantry and not being able to do much about it. I guess it's worth noting that the Death Jester can take the what do you call it? The Haywire Grenades. So always a good option. Again, for 5 points, you get a Haywire Grenade. I don't see any reason why not to take it. If he ever comes in contact with the land speeder a drop pod drops by near him or something like that, and it's like a kill point game or an objective game, and that drop pod's got objective secured, if he's got only a Shrieker Cannon to do damage to it, he's going to be in trouble. At least he could take it out by himself. You don't have to dedicate like a unit of jet bikes to shoot at it for a turn, or a Star Weaver, for example, to shoot at it. You can just send your lowly Death Jester at it. Because the Death Jester's not going to be useful every turn. The Death Jester's not going to be able to necessarily fire at the target he wants to every turn, because a lot of people will just avoid where your Death Jesters are and kind of just play the avoidance game. So other times you're going to have to find another way for your Death Jester to be useful. He's not always going to be your go-to guy to get the job done every time necessarily. He does have some issues, like he is pretty expensive and he is a high risk, high reward character, but he does accept, he is a character, so he can accept challenges and whatnot, so he does have an argument to be in the unit as well, and he could be used in conjunction with the Shadow Seer with the mask that's -2 leadership to everything within 12 inches. And therefore, and same thing with that combo I was talking about in the Shadow Seer video with the Dark Eldar Harlequin allies -4 leadership bubble. You could make -6 leadership morale tests, but again, you're expecting this is if you're playing against like a heavy infantry army, and that unit hasn't wiped out most of them, because at this point you probably caused them all to take morale tech checks at -4 anyway, if you've killed that many models. So I mean, I wouldn't really worry about it too much, but it is a good combination. You can have him work with the synergy of the minus leadership army. So overall, Death Jester's pretty good. He's probably like a 6 out of a 10 for me. He's good, but not great. He's not terrible. So yeah, I'd say about a 6 in terms of power and what he brings. You definitely don't need one in a Harlequin army for it to function. Like, he's not something that's required. If anything, he's somewhat of a hindrance. Like, in my opinion, there's better things you can spend your points on in that book. But I think he gets a 6 for me because I just like the model so much. If the model was terrible, he probably would only be getting like a 4 in terms of power playability on the field. But because he's cool looking, he gets +2 for me. I have 3 of them, and I've fielded 2 at a time before, and I'm not upset that when I do it. I'm not like, oh, well, that was a big waste taking the Death Jester. Sometimes it is when I'm playing against all armor. Yeah, the Death Jester is completely useless, but so is the rest of the Harlequin army, so it's kind of like a wish-wash. It doesn't really fill a lot of holes in the army list, unfortunately. I was kind of hoping that he was going to be able to do something more to vehicles with his Shrieker Cannon, but he ended up being an anti-infantry guy, which is typically the rest of the Harlequin book. But infantry you're happy with. If you're playing Harlequins and you see infantry on the other side of the table, you're happy. You're like, all right, I don't care what it is, I'm happy. I'm glad I'm not having to fight armor. Anyway, guys, I hope you found that information good. I guess the last thing to mention is the Enigmas of the Black Library. I'm going to go over those in a separate video, but realistically, there's nothing that really pops out for him that's in there that's a good idea to really take. You could take the pistol. There's a special pistol you can take. I think it's called the Crescendo Rose or something like that. I'm not sure exactly, but what it does is it basically gives you number of shots equal to his attack characteristics. So it's decent, I guess, with him. I guess it's a pistol, so you could still fire either weapon. But see, some people have told me that he could get 4 attacks with it, but I don't see how. He only has 3. So maybe I'm making a mistake there, but I don't see any real reason to take that pistol. I mean, it's just a 3-shot blade storm strength 4 pistol. In my opinion, the Shrieker Cannon is just better. So unless I'm missing something, yeah, I don't know why you would ever want that. Excuse me, a pistol on a Death Jester. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. Please thumbs up and leave a comment below if you have any questions, and happy wargaming.